Theories of Creation, Proverbs Guys Ministry. I'm going to do a reading of Proverbs 6. First, want to do a little update on Artemis mission. Pilot Victor Glover had a short, Easter message, nothing special, but I want to go ahead and share that here with you guys here. Let's see here. Okay, here's another page that I'd like to share. Shows you how far they are from Earth right now. A rough animation of their trajectory. Let's see here. Actually, I'm going to move this one over here real quick. I wish I had a little pre-prepared animation, but I'm going to try to describe the best I can how they got there. So right now, it's saying they are 243,800 miles from Earth, and they have slowed to a speed of 1,100 miles per hour. Around noon, they're going to start their encounter going behind the backside of the moon. I believe they're going to lose communication with the Earth. It's about 7 o'clock tonight, Eastern, I believe. I'll have to go double check. Anyway, how did they get there? How did they get that distance from the Earth? Okay, first off, so they loaded in that massive rocket, and the reason it's so big is because most of it is fuel. You need all that fuel of potential energy and transfer it into kinetic energy, and basically you're just going to burn that fuel to accelerate that tiny capsule at the top of the rocket to what is the moon's encounter, roughly 24,500 miles an hour. And so if you watch a rocket on the launch pad, the only reason it's pointed straight up is because it needs to get out of the atmosphere. If it were to reach that velocity inside the atmosphere, the friction of the air moving by would completely incinerate the thing. So imagine driving down the highway, sticking your hand out the window, right? You'll see that relative wind pushing back on your hand. Now you're doing that at like 70 miles an hour, let's say highway speeds. Now, if you do that at 24,000 miles an hour, it's going to incinerate your hand. That relative wind is going to cause so much friction, so those molecules of air move by your skin. It's just going to take the skin with it. Okay, so it launches out of the atmosphere at about 100 kilometers or 60 miles up is the international boundary of space, what they call the Kármán line. And if you watch a rocket on the launch pad, it's going to start pitching over, and then it's going to get to a position where it's horizontal to the surface of the Earth. Um, After about 2 minutes, those two solid rocket boosters on the side fuel, and so instead of carrying around the dead weight, they're going to detach and they're just going to shed them so they don't carry that around. It's going to continue to accelerate for roughly 8.5 minutes. So during that 8.5 minutes, they're going to accelerate to a little higher than low Earth orbit velocity, which is 17,500 miles an hour. Now, what is low Earth orbit? This is where I wish I had an animation so I could kind of explain how it works. So Isaac Newton thought it up first. So imagine you're standing on a mountain high enough where it puts you out of the atmosphere. Then you fire a cannon, right? And so that cannonball is going to, as soon as you fire it, it's going to drop just like anything you let go of on the planet, right? And as it's moving sideways really fast, it's going to fall down to the Earth. And then if you load more propellant, it's going to carry farther over and fall. Well, eventually, high enough and fast enough, that cannonball will fall so fast, the curvature of the Earth and the ground is falling away from it as it continues to circle around. And then it just keeps falling towards the Earth, but it's going so fast it just circles around and orbits the Earth. That velocity is relatively 17,500 miles an hour, depending on the altitude you are from the surface of the Earth. Okay, so they accelerated to that velocity. Now they're in low Earth orbit. So what they did is I believe they raised the apogee, which is the highest altitude in a given orbit, to test the spacecraft for 24 hours to make sure all systems were working before they slung it out to the moon, which will take an additional 9-day round trip. So they accelerate and they raise their apogee to that altitude. I don't remember the exact altitude. And then they came back around, and when they were at the top of the apogee, they extended the perigee. They accelerated. I think it was something like only 18 miles an hour they needed to raise the altitude from inside the Earth at the lowest part of their orbit up to a couple hundred miles above the surface of the Earth. And then after they got back there, they did what's called a translunar injection burn. This is where they accelerate from their 17,500 miles an hour out to 24,000 miles an hour. Animation. What you do on one side of the planet is going to affect your altitude on the other side of the planet. So at the exact specific time, they accelerate at the lowest part of their orbit and sling the highest part of their orbit, so their spacecraft will arrive at the leading front edge of the moon. There. Now, football field has the ball. There's a receiver cutting across the field. If you threw the football at the receiver, by the time the ball got there, the receiver would be 2 or 3 steps ahead and he wouldn't catch it. So what the quarterback's going to do is he's going to aim to a point in front of the receiver and throw the ball. So as the receiver runs across, the ball's there and it catches. Same thing is going on here. You're slinging the spacecraft out in front of the moon, and the moon is going to come around and it's going to encounter the lunar gravity to a certain point where it will sling around the back of the moon and into what's called a free return trajectory. It'll set up the trajectory exactly so it'll lower the periapsis down at the surface of the Earth, and it will come behind the moon, and 3 days later it will counter it and it will enter without any additional burns needed. So what the Apollo missions were doing, for example, they had a third stage that they did their translunar injection burn with them, and they're slung out to the moon, and then they detached that third stage. Well, to run a bunch of science tests, what they did is they backed that third stage up. I think it was like 25 miles an hour, something like that. Just that small enough amount will change their trajectory from the leading edge of the moon to slam it into the moon so they can test a bunch of science experiments they had on the surface. And I think Apollo 12, they miscalculated or something, but they backed it up an additional like 13, 14 miles an hour, which brought it behind the moon and slung it out into solar orbit. And it's been looping around the sun ever since. And like every 40 years, it encounters the moon and or encounters the Earth again and comes around for a little bit and then slings out. Maybe a couple thousand years ago, the thing will come back and re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, hit the moon or something. But anyway, so you can see here their velocity at the top of this screen that I'm showing here. Right now they're at 1,100 miles an hour. So Richard, I thought you said they slung out to 24,000 miles an hour. Yes, they did. This is how orbital mechanics works. It's basically you're playing around with gravity. So if you take like a baseball or whatever, a rock, and throw it up in the air, say you throw it 20 miles an hour. Well, as soon as it leaves your hand, it's going to start slowing down because gravity's pulling on it. And by the time it gets to the top, it's going to, of the trajectory, it'll stop, and then it'll fall back down because of the gravitational pull. That's the same thing that's going on here. They're taking their rock or whatever, slinging it out 24,000 miles an hour, and the gravity is going to slow it down as it continues to follow that trajectory further and further and further. And right now they're getting very close to the top of the trajectory. I don't know the velocity. We'll see later on today as they move around the backside of the moon at their farthest point. But so here's the cool thing about orbital mechanics. If they were to orbit the moon at the top of their trajectory behind the moon like Apollo 8 did, they wouldn't need a whole lot of energy. So it took them 24,000 miles to sling out there. When you get to the top of that trajectory, right now they're moving 1,100 miles an hour. Well, orbit moon, you need to turn the spacecraft around and slow down. Remember, there's no brakes in space. You just basically need to point your engines in the direction you're traveling and back up, just a couple hundred miles an hour. It won't take a whole lot of energy, and then they can orbit the moon. That is a goal for Apollo 4 when they do the landing. Not Apollo 4, Artemis 4. The next Apollo Artemis 3, they're just going to do a rendezvous with the lander, which is still being built in low Earth orbit. And then I think by 27 or 28, they're going to sling it out and actually land back on the moon. But yeah, they're not orbiting the moon on this one. They're just doing a free return trajectory. This is just a test flight with humans on board. This is the first crewed mission with the Orion capsule, which is a space capsule that they're cruising in, in a few days back and land in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California, I believe. That's a basic idea of what's going on here. Wish them all the best. Okay, let's get back to Proverbs here. Stop sharing. There we go. All right, let's see here. Proverbs 6. My son, if you become sturdy for your friend, I don't know what that means. If you have shaken hands and pledged for a stranger, you are snared by the words of your mouth. You are taken by the words of your mouth. So do this, my son, and deliver yourself, for you have come into the hand of your friend. Go and humble yourself, plead with your friend. Give no sleep to your eyes, nor slumber to your eyelids. Deliver yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, and like a bird from the hand of the fowler. Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise. There's another thing about creation right there. Consider her ways. When they said go to the ant, did you know all the worker ants are female? This was written way before we even knew that. Which, having no captain, overseer, or ruler, provides her supplies in the summer and gathers her food in the harvest. How long will you slumber, O sluggard? When will you rise from your sleep? A little slumber, a little folding in the hands to sleep. So shall your poverty come on you like a prowler, and your need like an armed man. I guess it's basically saying get off your butt, go to work if you want things. If you're in poverty, work harder, find other ways to support your income. A worthless person, a wicked man, walks in the perverse mouth. He winks with his eyes, he shuffles his feet, he points with his fingers, perversity in his heart. He desires evil continually, he sows discord. Therefore, his calamity shall come suddenly. Suddenly he shall be broken without remedy. These six things the Lord hates. Yes, seven are an abomination to him: a proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among brethren. Yeah, proud look gets me. I want to read those again. Maybe it'll convict somebody. You know. Therefore, his calamity shall come suddenly. Suddenly, he shall be broken without remedy. These six things the Lord hates. Yes, seven are an abomination to him: a proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among brethren. Many people in your church, can you pin a couple of those on them? My son, keep your father's command, and do not forsake the law of your mother. Bind them continually upon your heart, tie them around your neck. When you roam, they will lead you. When you sleep, they will keep you. When you awake, they will speak with you. For the commandment is a lamp, in the law a light. Reproofs of instruction are the way of life, to keep you from the evil woman, of the flattering tongue of the seductress. Do not luster after her beauty in your heart, nor let her allure you with her eyelids. For by means of a harlot, a man is reduced to a crust of bread, and an adulteress will prey upon his precious life. Can a man take fire to his bosom, and his clothes not be burned? Can one walk on hot? Excuse me. Let me start over here. Can a man take fire in his bosom? Can his clothes not be burned? Can one walk on hot coals, and his feet not be seared? So those that can walk on hot coals, I mean, they have pretty big calluses, and their skin is searing. But so is he who goes into his neighbor's wife, who touches her shall not be innocent. People do not despise a thief, if he steals to satisfy himself when he is starving. Yet when he is found, he must restore sevenfold. He may have to give up all the substance in his house. Whoever commits adultery with a woman lacks understanding. He who does so destroys his own soul. Wounds and dishonor he will get, and his reproach will not be wiped away. For jealousy is a husband's fury. Therefore, he will not spare in the day of vengeance. He will not. He will accept no recompense, nor will he be appeased, though you give many gifts. That's Proverbs 6. See, check out the chats here. No sound. You have no sound. The shared video, I mean. If you're still here, Krista, are you talking about the one with the Earth trajectory, or was it what is it? The one of Victor Glover, the Easter explanation. Uh, I don't know if you're still in. A couple people tapped in and out. Um, the one with the Artemis 2, I muted that one. The other one, I don't know what went wrong and why it didn't have any sound, because I heard it just fine on my end. Um, well, if that is the one you were talking about, just Easter mission. Oh, come here, bear.
Come here. You want to say hi?
Oh, well, guys, it's been fun. I got a bunch of work I got to go do. Have a good day. God bless you.